Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, your body trembling, your mind screaming, yet unable to move, unable to speak, as if something else has taken control. The sensation of losing yourself, of becoming a puppet to an unseen force, is one of humanity's deepest, most primal fears. For most of us, this is just a nightmare, a story whispered around a campfire, something that exists only in movies or old legends. But for some unfortunate souls, this fear becomes a terrifying reality. Possession, being controlled by an unknown entity, is not just superstition. It has been reported across centuries, across continents, in cultures both ancient and modern, in remote villages, and even in the heart of bustling cities. These cases are not just strange, they are horrifying. People have described voices speaking through them, eyes rolling back in terror, bodies moving in impossible ways, and violent occurrences that defy explanation. Houses shook as if alive, objects flew through the air, and shadows danced in rooms with no source of light. And the victims, they felt powerless, trapped in their own flesh. Tonight, we will step into that terrifying world. We will explore some of the scariest, most documented possession cases ever recorded, stories so chilling, so unbelievable, that they inspired classic horror films, fueled legends, and left experts questioning the limits of human understanding. These are not tales of fiction, they are true events. Prepare yourself. As we enter these haunted realities, you may start to question what is real, what is possible, and whether some forces are closer than you could ever imagine. Our first case takes us to West Pittston, Pennsylvania, in the early 1980s. A seemingly quiet suburban town that would soon become the epicenter of terror. The Smurl family, Jack, Janet, and their 2 children, moved into a modest home, expecting the normal challenges of everyday life. But what began as minor disturbances quickly escalated into a nightmare that would haunt them for years. It started subtly. Strange, disembodied noises echoed through the hallways at night, footsteps pacing across empty rooms, doors opening and closing by themselves, and a low, guttural moan that seemed to seep from the walls. The family noticed foul odors that appeared out of nowhere, rotting smells, sulfur, and something they could not identify, lingering long after they had tried to clean the house. And then came the shadows. Figures appeared at the edges of their vision, darting into corners, vanishing whenever anyone tried to look directly at them. But these early signs were only the beginning. Soon the events turned violent. Objects flew across rooms with terrifying force. Walls shook as if the house itself were alive, and chilling voices whispered directly into the family's ears. Janet Smurl, in particular, began experiencing something far worse than just external disturbances. She described a horrifying sensation, the feeling that an invisible force was controlling her body, compelling her to move, speak, and even act in ways she could not control. Her own mind seemed trapped while an unknown entity puppeteered her every action. Desperate and terrified, the Smurls sought help from the church. Priests were called in to bless the house, performing multiple exorcisms that sometimes lasted for hours. Candles flickered wildly, holy water spilled across floors as if pushed by unseen hands, and the family prayed with a fervor born from sheer fear. Yet despite all the rituals, the entity never fully left. Its presence lingered, a constant shadow over the Smurl family's home and their lives. The case gained national attention and became one of the most thoroughly documented modern hauntings in the United States. Investigators, clergy, and even neighbors attested to the strange and terrifying events. For the Smurls, the house was no longer a home. It was a battleground against something beyond comprehension, a place where the line between the natural and the supernatural had been erased. Perhaps the most infamous possession case in modern history is that of Anneliese Michel, a young German woman whose life would become a harrowing tale of fear, faith, and tragedy. Born in 1952, Anneliese was an ordinary student in a small German town, but by her late teens, she began to suffer from severe epilepsy and depression. Medical treatments failed to fully alleviate her symptoms, and soon she began experiencing something far stranger, something that terrified everyone around her. Anneliese became convinced that she was possessed by multiple demons. She spoke in voices that were not her own, deep, guttural, and chilling. She would scream at invisible forces, sometimes in languages she had never studied, and her body displayed frightening signs of supernatural influence. Contorted postures, violent thrashing, and strength far beyond what her frail body should have been capable of. Friends and family watched in horror as she convulsed in her room, often shrieking threats at entities only she could see. Her parents, desperate and terrified, turned to the church. Over the course of nearly 10 months, they enlisted the help of 2 priests who performed dozens of exorcisms in their home. The rituals were grueling and intense. Candles flickered as if blown by unseen hands. Statues of saints toppled, and the room would fill with an oppressive, heavy atmosphere that even the priests described as suffocating. Throughout this time, Anneliese's health deteriorated dramatically. She became skeletal, her body weakened by almost constant fasting and the physical toll of the exorcisms. Yet the supposed demonic voices only grew louder, more violent, more insistent. On July 1st, 1976, tragedy struck. Anneliese Michel died at just 23 years old, weighing barely 68 pounds from malnutrition and dehydration. Her death shocked Germany and the world, sparking intense debate. Was this a case of genuine possession or a tragic medical failure exacerbated by religious fervor? The priest and her parents were eventually tried for negligent homicide, but the case also became one of the most documented and chilling possession stories ever recorded. Even today, decades later, the story of Anneliese Michel continues to haunt. Her life, her suffering, and the terrifying accounts of her possession have inspired books, documentaries, and the iconic horror film, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The question lingers: was Anneliese truly possessed, or was she a young woman caught in a storm of illness, faith, and fear? Either way, her story remains one of the darkest, most compelling tales of human horror in the modern era. Long before The Exorcist terrified audiences, a chilling real-life possession unfolded in Maryland in 1949, and it would later become the inspiration for one of the most iconic horror stories of all time. The story centers on a young boy known as Robbie Mannheim, though in some reports he is referred to as Roland Doe, an ordinary child who would soon become the unwilling target of an unseen, malevolent force. It all began innocently enough. Robbie and his friends discovered an old Ouija board in the attic. They played with it, asking simple, harmless questions, unaware that each movement of the planchette was opening a doorway to something far darker. At first, the disturbances were small: books falling off shelves, strange tapping sounds, and doors creaking when no one was near. But soon the activity escalated in ways that defied explanation. Robbie began speaking in voices that were not his own, deep, guttural, and frighteningly angry. He swore in languages he had never learned, uttered violent threats, and at times his body would contort in impossible ways. Objects moved on their own with alarming force. Furniture toppled, windows slammed shut, and entire rooms seemed to tremble. Witnesses even reported seeing Robbie lifted from the floor or thrown across the room, demonstrating strength far beyond that of a normal child. Desperate and terrified, Robbie's family sought help from the church. Local priests were called in to perform a series of exorcisms, rituals that lasted for weeks. Candles flickered as if blown by an invisible wind. Holy water spilled inexplicably, and the air in the room became thick and oppressive. Even the clergy reported hearing whispers and seeing shadows move in corners where no light could reach. The exorcism was grueling, both physically and emotionally, for Robbie and everyone involved. The case left such a profound mark that it inspired William Peter Blatty's 1971 novel, The Exorcist, which would go on to terrify millions around the world. But while millions of viewers experienced fear through fiction, Robbie lived it. For him, the terror was not on a movie screen. It was real, immediate, and terrifyingly inescapable. His story remains one of the most documented, unsettling possession cases in modern history, a stark reminder of what can happen when forces beyond understanding cross into our world. In 2011, the quiet streets of Gary, Indiana, became the setting for one of the most shocking modern possession cases ever documented. LaToya Ammons, a single mother, moved into a small house with her 3 children, hoping for a fresh start. But what awaited them was anything but ordinary. It began subtly. Doors would slam on their own, objects would disappear and reappear in strange places, and the children began to complain of seeing shadowy figures at the edge of their vision. But soon the incidents escalated in ways that defied all explanation. LaToya described witnessing her children levitating above their beds while fully asleep, their small bodies suspended in midair as if invisible hands held them aloft. The children began speaking in languages they had never learned, sometimes yelling cryptic messages with voices that did not sound human. Their strength became unnaturally violent, able to throw objects across rooms with ease or break furniture simply by grabbing it. Doctors and psychologists were initially called in, but even medical explanations could not account for what was happening. The disturbances intensified to the point where paramedics, responding to routine calls, reported objects moving on their own and strange, inexplicable sounds filling the home. Law enforcement officers also confirmed strange occurrences, making the house a center of national attention. Desperate for help, LaToya turned to the Catholic Church. Multiple priests performed exorcisms in the home, some lasting for hours, often accompanied by violent outbursts from the children. Priests reported feeling an oppressive presence in the house, describing it as if multiple demonic entities were inhabiting the family. Candles flickered wildly, rooms felt icy cold despite the summer heat, and shadows seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways. The case made national headlines and was heavily documented, sparking intense debate among experts. Skeptics argued mental illness or stress could explain the events, but the accounts of multiple witnesses, including clergy, medical personnel, and law enforcement, painted a far darker picture. The LaToya Emmons case left a haunting question for the world. Were these truly psychological phenomena, or had something profoundly evil attached itself to this family? Either way, the terror they endured remains one of the most chilling modern possession cases ever recorded. Our final case takes us back to 1906 to a small convent school in South Africa, where a young student named Clara Germanicelle would become the center of one of the most terrifying possession cases ever recorded. Clara was a quiet, devoted girl, or so it seemed, but soon the peaceful rhythms of convent life were shattered by events that no one could explain. It began subtly. Clara would have sudden, uncontrollable fits, screaming and thrashing with a strength that shocked her teachers. She claimed to see shadowy figures in her room and began speaking in languages she had never studied, uttering cryptic phrases that chilled the clergy to their core. Soon these episodes escalated into violence. She could throw objects with incredible force, break furniture, and even attack those who tried to calm her. Attempts to restrain her physically were largely futile. It was as if something far stronger than human will had taken control. The nuns and priests were desperate. Multiple clergy members attempted to intervene, performing prayers and blessings. But the disturbances persisted. Finally, a formal exorcism was undertaken, a grueling ritual that lasted for days. During the exorcism, witnesses reported Clara's voice shifting dramatically, alternating between her own and a guttural, commanding tone. Her body contorted into unnatural positions, and some claimed to see shadows detached from the walls, as if feeding off the malevolent force inhabiting her. The events surrounding Clara became the stuff of legend. Word of her possession spread far beyond the convent, with clergy and investigators documenting the case in detail. Even today, more than a century later, Clara Germanicelle's story is cited as one of the most documented, mysterious, and disturbing possession cases in history, a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that can touch even the most sacred spaces. The possession cases we've explored tonight are more than mere stories. They are windows into a world that most of us hope never touches our lives. Each victim, from Anneliese Michel to Clara Germanicelle, faced horrors beyond comprehension, horrors that stripped them of control over their own bodies and minds. These stories challenge everything we think we know about reality. Are these events simply extreme psychological phenomena, born from mental illness or trauma? Could they be the result of undiagnosed medical conditions, magnified by fear and suggestion? Or is it possible that something far darker exists, an unseen force, ancient and malevolent, that can reach across space and time to influence the living. Experts, doctors, and clergy have debated these cases for decades, yet no explanation has fully accounted for the experiences described. The truth remains elusive, and therein lies the terror. Even more unsettling is how ordinary spaces, homes, schools, convents, can become stages for unimaginable horror. Places meant for comfort and safety become theaters of chaos. Shadows twist unnaturally, objects move on their own, and whispers pierce the silence when no one else is around. These are not tales of fiction. These are accounts from those who lived through unimaginable fear, who felt helpless in the presence of forces beyond human comprehension. As you sit here now, consider the shivers that run down your spine, the sudden feeling that someone or something is watching you. Our lives are surrounded by mysteries we may never fully understand, and sometimes the things that lurk in the corners of our perception are not just figments of imagination, they may be very real. So the next time a shadow flickers across your room or an unexplainable sound cuts through the silence, remember, fear is not always a creation of the mind. Some forces are patient, some are ancient, and some may be closer than you ever imagined. If tonight's journey into the world of possession has left you with chills, you are not alone. These cases of Anneliese Michel, Robbie Mannheim, Latoya Ammons, Clara Germana Hele, and the Smurl family serve as a haunting reminder that the line between the natural and the supernatural is thinner than we might think. For those who crave the unknown, the terrifying, and the inexplicable, there are countless more stories waiting to be uncovered, real events that will challenge your understanding of reality and perhaps even the safety of your own home. If you want to continue exploring the dark corners of our world, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Here we delve deep into true horror stories, paranormal encounters, unexplained mysteries, and the chilling secrets hidden in history and the shadows. By subscribing, you'll be the first to witness new tales that will make you question what is real and what lurks just beyond the veil of perception. And as you turn off your screen tonight, remember, some stories never truly end. Shadows linger, whispers remain, and sometimes the fear follows you home. So keep one eye open, trust your instincts, and always respect the unknown. Because in the world of the supernatural, curiosity can be dangerous. Sleep carefully, if you can.